Hello and welcome to this Newsmobile special. We have someone who's a leading light of the Narendra Modi government, doing some really groundbreaking things. Minister of Housing and Urban Affairs, Hardeep Singh Puri. Mr. Puri, thank you for joining us at Newsmobile. You have been a very distinguished diplomat and you've transitioned very well into a leading minister for the Narendra Modi government, leading some of their key projects like the Smart City Mission. What has been the single most achievement so far for you personally and for the government when it comes to your ministry?
Well, let me start by taking issue with your characterization of me as a leading light or a leading minister. I'm a relative newcomer. I was inducted into the Council of Ministers on 3rd September 2017. I've been in the council for a year and a half or so. And I feel greatly privileged that this is a ministry which houses 5 of the more important flagship programs of the government. These are flagship programs which the Prime Minister has personally taken an interest in. In fact, I would go a step further. The architecture and design of these schemes bear his own touch, his imprint, and he monitors each of these schemes personally. These schemes basically revolve around a conscious effort to seek urban rejuvenation. You know, for most of our existence as an independent country, Saurabh, we have neglected the urban space. In 1947, when we became an independent country, only 17% of India lived in urban areas. The 2011 census put the figure at 30%. I take issue with the figure. I think the figure would have been higher even in 2011. But we are at the very least, at a minimum, planning for 600 million people, Indians residing in urban space by 2030. Now, anyone familiar with our cities knows what the problems are. There is congestion, there is overcrowding, there is lack of planning. In fact, I've been so bold as to say that our town planners and architects, in many respects, live in the bullock cart era. And I thought I would get flack for that, but no, I think when something strikes at the very heart of what the reality is, people accept it. Now, the Swachh Bharat mission, to make India open defecation free, by the time we finish the 150th birth anniversary of the Mahatma on 2nd October 2019, the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, which involves building 1 crore homes by 2022, the Amrut scheme, which involves giving 500 cities with a population of over 100,000 water tap connections, sewage treatment, septage treatment, stormwater drainage, the Hriday scheme, the Day NULM. These are all very, very important schemes. And you are already seeing that many of these schemes in the 4.5 years or more of the Modi government, they've had a transformational effect. So if you were to ask me a question, which one is the greatest achievement? There's not any one. I mean, you are seeing the change. Let me give you the example of Swachh Bharat mission. Some of your friends and my friends on the liberal, slightly left of center political spectrum, when the Prime Minister first spoke about Swachhata from the ramparts of the Red Fort on 15th August 2014, they said, you know, is this a subject for the Prime Minister to be speaking about? How wrong they were. Today, Swachhata, that is both in the Grameen rural areas and in the urban areas, it's become a Jan Andolan. Now, people are using the terminology. We were talking about Satyagrahis for our independence. We talk now about Swachhagrahis. Building toilets is something we take great pride in. Yesterday, speaking in Parliament, the Prime Minister spoke about the number of toilets built and an entire scheme, building homes, etc. So this is a fantastic urban transformation taking place. It's not easy. At every stage, you have to overcome hurdles. But I think my greatest achievement, and I say this personally from my point of view, is that I inherited a situation where the design of these schemes was already in place. We were already beginning to implement them. And I think I draw satisfaction from the fact that after I've come, we have accelerated that implementation.
One of the biggest challenges facing India today is breathing cleaner air. Our cities, the place we are sitting has high AQI, and obviously you're somebody who has served in various diplomatic positions, been posted abroad in many cities which are breathing well. How do you make sure that India breathes cleaner air?
The conventional wisdom on this, insofar as the global experience is concerned, that things don't get better till they get very bad, until they have really deteriorated. My sense is that we've reached the stage of deterioration quite some time ago. Therefore, you see the improvements. I'm not the Minister for the Environment, so whatever I say will be from the limited perspective of my charge, which is what can we do in the urban space. Well, the causes of pollution, the causes of toxicity in the air are many. There are many. And we have to deal with them on a war footing. For instance, stubble burning in the adjoining states is something which I think is a criminal activity. But on the other hand, if you ask the chief ministers of those states, they said unless we give the farmers some compensation to do it differently, that's one aspect. As far as I'm concerned, buildings provide 40% or so of the carbon emissions, the toxicity in the air. So one of the things we have to do whilst building the new India for 2030, and we are building 700 to 900 million square meters of urban space every year, which is like building a Chicago. We have to make sure that building activity, construction activity is done in a green and resilient manner. Let me give you two simple examples. We used earlier brick and mortar, very toxic building technologies where you would pollute everything around you. There is no reason why we cannot adopt the new technologies which are available, many of which we have impaneled. I launched a global technology construction challenge in the housing sector. The Prime Minister will be inaugurating the exhibition and taking it a step further early in March. We should be able now to undertake the construction activity where everything is done somewhere else. Come and set up. You will be able to construct much faster. You will be able to do it in a greener and a resilient way. To me, the biggest challenge is how do you undertake urbanization in a climate-friendly and sustainable manner. That is the real challenge. Look, the fact of the matter is we've neglected the urban space. For nearly 70 years, we've subjected it to criminal neglect. We thought our entire future and panacea lay in rural development. And you had a situation where today you have vigorous urbanization going on, autonomous urbanization going on. I've taken a number of steps in Delhi. For instance, day before yesterday, we launched the land pooling. People with small parcels of land can aggregate them, and we think that you can get something like 17 lakh housing units done there. But we need to be able to appreciate what is at stake. We've added 140 kilometers of metro rail in the last 1 year. We have now every expectation that phase 4 will come in. But we have a elected government in Delhi, which is, I have another book coming out, you can read my account of them there, but it's populist, it plays the victim card. They want to create disruption, and they put every hurdle. I had done the Shilanyas of a major project, and which is ready now for inauguration, but there are 2 trees coming in there. So if you leave it to them, they don't want to clear any project of the central government.
So you think Mr. Kejriwal is
being a
stumbling block?
He's not a stumbling block, it's too mild a term. And I think he will have to answer the people of Delhi on that. But in the coming weeks, I plan to go public on what is really required. And
why don't you say so now?
No, I told him joking. We were at the Lieutenant Governor's
at home.
Yeah. And I told Arvindji, I said, in the Lieutenant Governor's residence, there's a room which you occupied for 10 days. I think we should put up a plaque there that this is where the Chief Minister and his senior cabinet colleagues staged dharna for 10 days. Let that become a tourist attraction. You see, Saurabh, genius lies in identifying yourself with a principle. You are very young, intelligent and professional journalist. But at the end of the day, when you are my age, you'll have to think back and say, what do you want to be remembered by? Some journalists are remembered not by the stories they write, but the stories which they didn't write as editor. And some politicians will be remembered not for what they did, but for the number of development projects that they stopped. So I think they have a problem on their hands.
You've been very candid, and I'm glad you mentioned thing about urban planners and all that sometimes they're fixated about ideas. You've served New York as India's ambassador to the UN for a long time, did a lot of efforts for sustainable development, climate change. Don't you get a sense when we are planning for smarter cities, we should have a large green space, a large garden, like what a Central Park, and a water body? Why can't our cities have these green spaces?
I agree with you. But first of all, let's be clear on one thing. What you say is right. And if you have a greenfield smart city, that's what you'll have, because you're planning it afresh.
Absolutely.
But the fact of the matter is that the 100 cities that you decided would be smart cities, 90 of them are brownfield projects.
Yes.
And it's not that the cities don't have water bodies. What you did was your restaurants and your residences took all their refuse, all their waste, etc., and dumped it into the water body. What happens in a city like Delhi? You have these eating establishments. They cut vegetables and other things from morning to evening. In the evening, instead of taking it, segregating the waste between wet waste and dry waste, they go and dump it into the nearest nala. What? It blocks the nala. It blocks the water body. So we're changing all that. Yes, the 10 new smart cities, Naya Raipur, you will have urban forests. We are doing it in Delhi. We've just vacated a site which is about 700-800 acres. And we are going to plant an urban forest for 700 acres. I'll be making that announcement with the LG very soon.
Very good.
So we do all that. But you have to restore your urban infrastructure. And that restoration means the waters, bodies, the rivers, where we are doing good water conservation, etc. I mean, I had the Babaji from a place in Punjab who came here the other day. He's cleaned up the Bias river with little technological changes, with little application of mind. But look, ideally you need not 100 smart cities where you use technology to produce ease of living. I mean, if you have 4,000 plus cities, why not have 1,000 smart cities? But at the end of the day, it's an issue of resources. And at the heart of our urban challenge lies the fact that your urban local bodies have to be empowered. They have to be empowered to raise revenue, because you cannot bring about urban rejuvenation through what is called a nanny state, that the state gives you money and you do it. Most of our urban local bodies are preoccupied at the local municipal level with people who are corrupt, totally corrupt. They are trying to find out ways and means of enriching themselves, and they are not even raising revenue. And you appoint a good municipal commissioner in a place and you see the change. You appoint a good mayor. I think our mayors need to be politically empowered. When I lived in New York, since you mentioned New York, if there was a problem, for instance, a law and order problem, which New York had much of it, they elected Giuliani as mayor, and he cleaned out the place. He drove the mafia out, arrested them, dealt with them in the best way possible. Now, in our system, if a mayor is elected for 1 year, I hope we produce superhuman beings who can be super motivated even if they are around for 1 year.
Yeah. One of the pet projects of the Prime Minister, obviously you mentioned about Swachh Bharat Mission, while the government has done a great deal, but still a long way to go.
Not really.
I still feel, and I'm talking about people in general, there are people who still litter on the street. Some enforcement mechanism is required where you start finding people.
First of all, let me put it to you bluntly.
Yeah.
Swachh Bharat Mission had two components as far as the urban area is concerned. One is the physical component, the number of toilets you have to build, individual household toilets, the number of community and public toilets. That's one. But the other is to make them ODF, open defecation free.
Right.
Now, the ODF part, Saurabh, requires a paradigmatic shift in terms of behavioral change. I can build the best toilet for you, but if you are either used to defecating out in the garden because it's cleaner, or not using a toilet, or deciding that you want to use the toilet as a darzi shop, as a tailoring shop, then I can't help you. So, but the good news is people are being named and shamed. I totally agree with people will still litter. I mean, not only guys who are on drugs, but normal people will litter.
Absolutely.
I mean, you say, but it has become less. Because what happens is, if you're driving a car and you see somebody
throwing something out
not
of the car.
throwing, I think the most obnoxious thing is you lower your window and then you take the pan ki chuli and instead of not you put it on the next car. Best thing to do in that is take a few photographs and put them on social media. There is nothing like naming and shaming.
Absolutely.
Look, I have seen a situation where people have become so defensive. We carry out what is called a Swachhta Sarvekshan. The first Sarvekshan we carried out was in 2016, second in 17, third in 18. The first Sarvekshan covered only 73 cities. The next one covered 470. Third one's covered over 4,000. And the one we are carrying out now in 2019 covers every Indian city. And initially people took great pride that Indore and Bhopal and places were number 1 and number 2. Now I'm witnessing a phenomenal new development. People who were at the bottom actually call me and say, "Aap 2 din aur de dijiye, team ko bhej dijiye." Because if you are an elected person, okay, and you have to go to your constituents, and the survey in the end says that out of X 100 cities which were surveyed, I mean, it's an example, I'm not true, now every city is, you came out at 97, 98. People want to know why. I was in a meeting with Yogi ji. I had gone to call on him a few months ago. And in the meeting was the commissioner of Lucknow. And we were talking about Swachhta. And I was delighted to hear, and I'm not telling you when so you'll know who got the dressing down, when he told him that he completely agrees with the central minister that there should be no tolerance on Swachhta. Look, if you don't keep your own body, your own house clean, what do you expect? You are actually spreading disease and squalor. In fact, the WHO did an analysis that the amount of money India has saved because of the Swachhta campaign is phenomenal. Now, when does a project succeed? I think by the end of this period, by 2nd October this year, most of India will be ODF. But ODF is not a status which you will give to yourself or I will give to myself or she will give to herself. It is based on third party verification. So आप अगर आज घर को साफ रख के अपनी इंस्पेक्शन करा लीजिए और नंबर ले लीजिए अच्छे और कल जब वो इंस्पेक्टर चला जाए उसके बाद आप कह दीजिए कि now I start open defecation or littering, you lose the status. And in some places they've lost the status. So it is a constant process. Why is it that we went wrong in many areas? I have a very simple explanation. India's GDP in 1750 was 27% of global GDP. Angus Maddison, a Cambridge economist. When we became an independent country after 190 years of colonial rule, we had come down to 3%.
Absolutely.
Now, was colonialism to blame? I said partly, but we were to blame. If you let somebody else, a trading company, to come and take over your place, the trading company used inducements, pure bribery and other things to distort your social priorities. When you are running around looking after your own interest, you will spend your money this thing. Here your economic development priorities were subjugated to the requirements of the colonial power. That's the point I made. But you've been an independent country since 1947. What have you guys done? Or what did we do? This is where I think if you look at what the Prime Minister said yesterday, if you look at the history of the last 55 months and the last 55 years, you see a hell of a lot of difference.
Absolutely. One of the things PM has been talking about is housing for all, and your ministry has been working very hard for that. Do you get a sense that sustainability is very important? So there should be some kind of incentive being brought in to where you get greener housing which also provides sustainable solutions. So there is kind of a hybrid solution.
Well, it's like this. First of all, you have to provide housing for all. And that's a commitment the PM has made till 2022.
Yes.
The gap that was identified when we started the project was that you needed to build 10 million houses or 1 crore by 2022. The project started in June of 2015. Today, I can tell you, we've done already 7.2 million. And the 10 million target or the 1 crore housing target, which I'm supposed to do but till 2022 in the urban area, I'll get it done by this time next year. So and this time next year will be 2020. So we're a good 2 years in advance, two years plus in advance. We are out of a large percentage of the homes that we built are according to new technology, but not all. But now with the global technology housing construction challenge, I am confident, which we starts in beginning March, which the PM will flag off. In the coming years, you know, there are private companies like the bigger success stories in the Indian corporate world, which only use those green technologies for their construction. That will become the norm. And as you use them, they will become more affordable. So I think we're on the right track. Everybody will have a home. Each home will have a kitchen, a toilet. The title will be in the name of the lady of the house or co-jointly. So if there is a marital dispute, it's not the lady who gets thrown out. So I think we're on the right track, and it's a great success story, the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana.
You've been prolific on social media. I see your tweets, some of the very ones. What is your take on the proposed Mahagathbandhan? PM has been talking about it. The elections are just not far away. What's your sense?
The Prime Minister used some very interesting terminology, Mahamilawat and things like that. No, it's a sham. It's a sham. Look at who's coming together. Please trace the history of the Telugu Desam Party. Please trace the history of the language which was used between the Samajwadis and the Bahujan Samaj Party. Use them. That's how they started. What did Mr. Kejriwal say about the Congress? You know, now these people are going to come together with one motive. That is, we don't want Mr. Narendra Bhai Damodar Das Modi. Why? Because he's delivering goods. So this is collection of failed politicians, people out on bail, some outright thugs coming together and going to the people. I have great confidence in the maturity of the electorate.
Also, changing gears a bit, you've been a diplomat for a long time. How was the transition from a diplomat, from somebody who was working in an environment which was very, very different?
Relatively easy. Yes. Because I was a somewhat outspoken diplomat also. Yeah. I had a propensity to speak my mind. It was not always appreciated. They preferred the quiet, submissive.
I do recall some instances.
No, they preferred the quiet, submissive. You know, what you within inverted commas call the chamcha variety. So I had a penchant for plain speaking even then. I'm very fortunate that I've joined a political party which, and look, I've had associations with the BJP before the BJP was born. I had associations with the Akhil Bharatiya Vidyarthi Parishad way back in the university. Yeah. So I'm not new to the people. I have very good association with the cultural organization and so on. That's not the issue. But you know, ministers in the Modi government are not like ministers in the Congress government, which was a feudal setup. As long as you were loyal to the one family, you could do whatever else you liked.
So you think that the BJP is more democratic that way?
It's not only more democratic. You feel more like the chief operating officer or the chief executive officer of a certain task which has been assigned to you. And somebody asked me, what's your relationship with the Prime Minister? I said, I'm a great admirer of his, but my relationship is totally professional. So this is a completely new paradigm. And I think as we go forward, Prime Minister yesterday advised them that if they want to come back with another opposition, if they want to mount, they should prepare better for 2023. So I think that's the spirit in which we are proceeding. It's been easy, relatively easy. I shouldn't say that. I mean, it's not that I've been around too long. But if you're clear about what your objectives are and you're clear about the modalities which you can use to achieve those objectives, there's not much difference between the civil service and the and politics.
So you think you, someone of a domain expert, a specialist who was brought in to do a job, do you get a sense that it's time now that Indian politics also gets in domain experts, more professionals to get in and make sure that they are being part of parties so that they can do a better job?
It's an evolving scenario, and I'm not sure that I have the answers. I mean, do you need a medical doctor to be health minister? Do you need a professional economist to be a minister in commerce or in... I don't know. At the end of the day, this is about sound administrative management, utilizing expertise wherever it's available. But I can tell you, one of your colleagues wrote a uncharitable piece about us, and he said that the bench strength of the BJP doesn't compare with the that of the Congress. I think he was talking nonsense. You measure the performance of a government, of a prime minister and his colleagues by what they deliver, not by the kind of language they use or you know. I mean, the Congress party specializes in a lot of people conducting private economic enterprises. I don't want to go into names.
So you would disagree that there is talent deficit
Not at
in
all.
the BJP?
Who determines as to who has talent? I mean, I'm an admirer of yours. I'll say you're a good journalist. The next day you write something against someone, they'll say, "Yaar, wo itna acha nahi hai." But this is all subjective. I think the real test of a government is the ability to deliver good service, and this government has done fantastically. So if that is the plate on which you could judge talent, I think we've got lots of it. But on the other hand, if you are going to be measuring it in terms of some other templates which are not relevant to the kind of exercise we are involved in, well, I say best of luck.
Let's talk about...
Should you want to talk about talent? What about the talent in the man who wants to be Prime Minister?
What's your sense on that? You've seen Rahul Gandhi.
I think he's going through an extended apprenticeship. You know, I've seen him, I've known him, an impressive young man, but you know, he has to get real.
What will be your advice for Rahul Gandhi?
Well, I don't think he's likely to take me on as an advisor, but if I would tell him to go and round the villages of India, go around and see what the reality is, and then bring up issues and see the transformation there, and then take another 5 years or so and come back, maybe by the 2030 or so, because I think it's going to take a little time for that apprenticeship to round off.
You spoke about metro. It's been very impressive way that your ministry has also gone on and ensuring that Delhi and some of our cities have some great metro connectivity. And I know a lot of us, I feel that public transport was the need of the hour. It's working very well. But a lot of young people, you know, a lot of young colleagues work in my office, and they get a sense that your metro fares have to be rationalized. I know. You cite me some numbers.
No,
I do. But what's the problem? Do you think some rationalization of metro fares is required?
There is no problem on metro fares. Mr. Kejriwal has hired a few trolls who work out of some city in South India, I don't know where. And every time he tweets this. Look, there are two issues involved. Metro is a capital intensive asset. You have to borrow money. If you borrow money, you have to return it. Okay? Otherwise, you won't get money for the next metro.
Yeah.
Metro fares hadn't gone up in India, in Delhi for 9 years. So not me, before I was born in the political system, as it were. They took a decision in 2016 that a fare fixation committee has to be. So a fare fixation committee headed by a retired judge of the Delhi High Court recommended that metro fares now after 9 years have to go up. That had already been implemented before I came. Okay, there were two parts. First part was in May 2017. It was implemented. There was no hue and cry. I came along in September, and the second phase was in October. Then they told me, please stop this, Mr. Kejriwal. He used to come and have lunch with me. So he was trying me whether I was, you know, a greenhorn, new guy. There were a lot of people saying, "Yaar, ye kaun hai? Ye to elect bhi nahi hua. Ye to politician nahi hai. Chalo isko to try and run some circles around." So I said, sure, let's look at it. So when I told him, I said, but neither you nor I have the powers to stop it. So kya karna chahiye? Nahi, aap isko rok dijiye. You know. See, you see, coming from someone who has what I think is called a commitment phobia, he has no ability to take decision. Whenever he comes to a decision, he runs away. He knocks a file around. Now, I have studied this in great detail. I have compared the metro fares of Delhi with the metro fares in all over the country. It is one of the most economical. I've compared the metro fares in Delhi with the global fares. It's the 11th most economical metro system in the world. So that's not an issue. There is a small issue that today metro is so popular, 30 lakh people ride on it, that I think the senior citizens and the students, the school and college students, we have to do something for them. So I'm on record. I will prepare a special dispensation, technology based. You see, the problem here is of the moral compass. If I produce, say, you can travel with a 30% fare reduction, I have to make sure that's not misused.
Absolutely.
So we are working out that. And
so a special dispensation for students, you're saying?
students and senior citizens.
Oh, very good.
You
So
know,
that's something which obviously will be a game changer.
No, Delhi University students came to see me, and not my ABVP types, the what the Communist Party of India types. So I had sat them down. I said, what are you interested in? You want to play somebody's political game? No, sir, we want relief. I said, I give you. I take a photograph with me. We'll stand there. I'll go on record to say I'll produce it. I'm in advanced discussion. I've said it in Parliament that we will produce a special dispensation, and we will do it in a way that everybody benefits. So now what happens is that every time we are inaugurating a new line, Mr. Kejriwal, now he doesn't come, he sent Mr. Sisodia. I think because he's a little embarrassed that, everybody will raise some issue. So Mr. Sisodia comes and they're very happy, they compliment everyone. But when it comes to their action, what they say, oh, CBI ko case de do, isme ye kar do, isme wo kar do. These are young people. And I think they have a long way to go.
You've been a teacher. You taught at St. Stephen's College, so you understand students very well. Yeah. So you're assuring the students that they will 100%. See some kind of a metro special fare for students.
No, I am on record. I've told the students. I've said this in Parliament. It has to be a technology-based solution, so that it's only the senior citizens, based either on the Aadhaar card or something, so that there is no misuse. And I think we'll get there very soon.
Minister Puri, you performed very well on the task that the Prime Minister gave you in this ministry. Post the elections, Sushma ji has already announced that she will not run, and there is a vacancy, it seems, in the Ministry of External Affairs. If your government comes back to power, do you see yourself?
No, first of all, in Sushma ji we have an outstanding external affairs minister.
But she's not running.
No, she says she will not contest a Lok Sabha poll. Yeah. That doesn't mean that she cannot be brought in from elsewhere. Look, let's be absolutely clear. I feel deeply privileged in this portfolio. If the government comes back, is not an if, it is a certainty. Thereafter, it's entirely the Prime Minister's prerogative. But I can tell you there's a lot of work still to be done here. But
you'll have to be in this ministry.
No, I say it's unlikely that I would be asked. I wasn't asked last time. But if the government of the day, headed by Shri Narendra Modi, were to reassign me here, I'd be very happy.
Minister Puri, just before we let you go, what do you think has been the single biggest achievement of this government?
Mr. Modi has succeeded in ending the culture of impunity. He has brought in transparency. The corrupt are on the run. But what is most important, in that ambience, he has delivered on development in a solid way. So I think full marks on this score.
Mr. Puri, thank you for talking to Newsmobile.
Thank you.